There is a law of human nature that controls people quietly, invisibly, relentlessly. It isn't written in any book. It doesn't come from courts or governments. It doesn't need permission to operate. Yet, it has shaped every society, every empire, every betrayal, every friendship, and every family that has ever existed. This law is rarely spoken about, but you've felt it. You've seen its fingerprints on people's behavior. You've tasted the confusion it leaves behind when you ask yourself, why did they do that? Why are people like this? The law I am talking about is this: people will almost always act in their own self-interest first, and then justify it later as if it were about you. That is the hidden, secret law. Self-interest before truth, before compassion, before loyalty. You've been raised to believe people are naturally kind, that society is built on fairness, that friends and family ultimately have your back. But the reality? Self-interest rules underneath it all. And because you don't expect it, it blindsides you again and again. You confuse performance for loyalty. You confuse words for devotion. You confuse sympathy for love. Think of your life. Think of the friend who disappeared the second you no longer benefited them. Think of the family member who twisted your vulnerability against you when envy burned them. Think of the partner who swore eternal love but walked away when someone else gave them validation you weren't giving that week. Were they evil? Maybe not. Were they flawed? Yes. But most of all, they were obeying the secret law. They were protecting their own comfort, ego, benefit, image, or convenience. And once that law demanded their loyalty bend, they let it bend. This isn't just about individuals. Whole societies are built on this principle. History shows alliances broken not because promises didn't exist, but because one side saw a better deal. Wars started not because truth came out, but because leaders saw self-interest in deception. Even in families, inheritance fights destroy blood ties because self-interest drowned loyalty. And here's the trickiest part. These betrayals rarely come with honesty. People rarely admit, "I'm acting selfishly now." Instead, they twist language, they justify, they create illusions that make them look noble, compassionate, principled. Someone might betray you in the name of needing space, protecting themselves, or even loving you differently. But beneath the words, the law was at work all along. Dangerous, right? Because once you see it, you start realizing that most of the reasons people give you for their actions are just costumes. The real script is always the same. Does this benefit me? Does this protect me? Does this make me feel good? And here's where people fall. They assume the law only applies to strangers, enemies, outsiders. But no, it applies to everyone, to friends, to family, to lovers, even to you. Yes, you. Because if you are honest, you've acted selfishly too. You've put your comfort before someone else's need. You've justified silence when speaking truth cost too much. You've chosen pride over peace. We all live under this law. Don't confuse this with bitterness. The goal isn't to hate humanity. The goal is to wake up, to see clearly, to stop being shocked by what has always been reality. Once you accept this law, everything becomes clearer. Every disappointment suddenly makes sense. Every betrayal becomes less of a mystery and more of a pattern. You stop wasting nights asking, how could they do this to me?
Instead, you answer yourself, they did it because it served them in that moment. That's what people do. This clarity is painful at first. It makes the world feel cold, because suddenly the fairy tales collapse. The idea that love is always pure, or that loyalty is rock solid, or that people do the right thing simply because it's right. But as you sit with that coldness, something unexpected happens. You start to gain strength. You stop relying on illusions. You stop expecting human beings to behave against their most fundamental nature. And once you stop expecting it, you prepare for it. When people act selfishly, you are no longer blindsided. When loyalties shift, you are no longer destroyed. When someone betrays your trust, you recognize it not as the end of your worth, but as them obeying the same law that rules everyone else. This doesn't mean every act is selfish. Real love exists. Real loyalty exists. Real sacrifice exists. But those things are so rare because they are not the default. They are exceptions, miracles almost. That's why you must treasure them fiercely. When someone shows you love that survives their self-interest, that's sacred. When someone sacrifices, even when it costs, hold them close, guard them, respect them. Those people are the 1% who refuse to bow to the hidden law. But here's the next revelation. You cannot find them if you are blind to the 99%. That's why facing this harsh truth is liberating. You see reality for what it is, and it frees you to adjust, to guard, to filter. Does someone's consistency continue when your benefits to them stop? Do they stay close when you succeed instead of when you're broken? Pay attention. The law reveals who is in your life for you and who is in it for themselves. The most dangerous blindness is within family. People think blood saves them from this truth. It doesn't. Family can betray you as quickly as anyone else because family too lives under the law. Arguments over money, inheritance, recognition, pride, these destroy countless households. And people hide their betrayal under excuses of justice or principle. But watch closely, and you'll see that at the heart of every collapse is self-interest dressed in noble clothing. What do you do with this truth? You don't grow bitter, you grow prepared. You accept that illusions of guaranteed loyalty will destroy you. You stop confusing words with devotion. You stop treating every act of kindness as pure. You sharpen discernment until you can tell performance from presence. And then you rise above it yourself. You choose to become one of the few who resist the law, who choose loyalty, sacrifice, and love even in the face of self-interest. Because the world doesn't change from pretending selfishness doesn't exist. The world changes when you recognize it, accept it, and still choose something higher. So here is the secret law of human nature, laid bare. Self-interest rules almost everything. It controls families, friendships, politics, religion, business, even love. Most people will never admit it. Most people will never face it. But once you do, once you stop clinging to illusions, the law no longer controls you without your awareness. You rise. You guard your soul. You prepare. And you live clear-eyed in a world that rewards illusions but is run by shadows.